my manager seriously asked me, do you actually want this job? That was the moment I realized I was being too honest with them. Hey guys, today I'm going to share with you a unique or a rather different experience that I had when I started working. And then this is something that I don't usually talk about on this channel or on my Instagram because I prefer sharing the tips and tricks. I prefer telling you guys things that have worked previously for me and for students that I have helped so that you walk away with, the things that really work. In today's video, I'm going to share with you a pretty traumatic experience I had when I was working for my first job. And disclaimer for this video is not to shame any of my previous company that I worked for, my manager. It was rather a lesson that I have learned through painful experience that might offer you some value when I share with you guys. So as most of us are very looking forward for our first full-time job or for our first internship, we always draw this picture about corporate world to be something that, you finally have a job and finally you can be slightly financially independent, even though you are still a student, like doing your first internship. But it is a major milestone in your life that shows that you have, being accepted to a big company and, you're going to start a completely different world. You're going to learn something that you have never learned before from studying. And then you're going to work with like amazing colleagues and everything. You have this kind of expectation that once you get the first internship, once you get the first full-time job, your life will be sorted and then you are good. And then you have achieved a dream, you've got the dream offer. But sometimes the reality might hit you differently. Let me tell you more about that with my experience. Some of you guys already know I was previously an international student. I came here to the UK. My English was really bad and I was not confident at all because my English was bad and I actually struggled to express a lot of my feelings and thoughts. Definitely not as eloquently as now. Even now I'm still struggling to communicate effectively as well. But it has always been my dream to find internship to work for like really big organization. Since I ever came here to the UK, I always got inspired by my seniors who got internship, who got placement offers. So I thought, in my second year, I saw my senior, he got job offer from GSK, which is like a pretty big pharmaceutical company. And that inspired me to really try to achieve the same goal for myself as well. So I started applying to placement, which is like a year-long internship that you can take between your second year and your final year of your undergrad. As someone who has never looked for a job in the UK, who has never actually looked for a job before, it was a pretty tough process for me because sorting out the CV, writing a professional cover letter, and it was just so overwhelming. Plus, my English was really bad at that time. So I didn't feel confident at all, but then I was, persisting. I apply. I sent out lots of applications, as many of you guys are probably going through. Nearly at the end, I was so close to giving up. And finally, there was one yes letter coming in my inbox. And that is the internship or placement offer I took. It's also from GSK. So I was so excited, oh my God, I'm going to join. I'm going to spend a whole year working for such a big company. It's a well-known pharmaceutical company. It has developed drugs, it has developed vaccines. I'll be able to contribute my own experience and my own time to the grand vision of, curing diseases and helping people. So with that expectation, I started my internship. This is where the reality was different from my expectation. What happened was, I had the expectation I'm going to learn a lot of things. I am going to meet so many different type of people. I'm going to essentially make my first step into the corporate world. And if you are a student and then you have never worked before, this is something completely new. And then you are so looking forward to joining this big company to get everything done, to be willing to go extra miles to just get things done. And then just enjoy life at the same time because it's really different from studying. So that was true for the first month. Let's say for the first 3 weeks, I was getting to know other placement students. I was getting to know my teammate. I was getting to know what I needed to do in my placement. So something that I didn't expect was I think I didn't really like my teammates and I really didn't like the type of work that I was given. I understand, with a bigger company, if you are there only for 12 months or as an intern, you're not joining them for a permanent role. And it could be that they don't always give you the exciting work. They will give you the low risk work, which is usually repetitive work for students, so that you get used to what they're doing, and then you get used to how the company operates, and then you get used to, in generally building the communication skills both externally and internally. So because I was hoping to do something exciting, like developing a new drug, and the task I was given as a student at that time was quite mundane, and then this is something that made me feel like, did I actually sign up for these? Because I was hoping to, build a grand scheme and then like push the industry forward, and then this is something that I was telling the company when I was interviewing. But what actually happened was like, this is a huge thing I want to build, but I was given a tiny like 0.1% of thing that I needed to do for the company, and then I had to do that repetitively for 1 year. So that really put me off after 3 weeks of realization. And also I think my team as well, I didn't have a very good dynamic. Maybe my English was really bad at the time. I actually struggled to understand them when I first started my internship. So, and I was quite intimidated as well, because everybody in my office was just full British. They spoke super fast. They talk about things which are very British and I did not understand. So I felt excluded a little bit. And also because I was a placement student, I was not there for full time. So naturally, I was treated as, an outsider as a student. These are the two major things that put me off, the lack of family vibe and the lack of diversity of work. And as a student, as someone who was like very much like, oh, I want to do this big thing, and I want to keep learning, and I just don't want to waste my time on doing these. And then also due to the nature that my working hours, even though it's 8 hours during my placement, but the actual working hours is much less than that. So like 3 to 4 hours of effective working time. So I felt quite bored in the office, and then I was like scrolling through different news and looking at different things. And also when I went back home after the whole day, then I started looking into other career options for me, because I don't see myself joining the company doing the same thing after I graduate. As someone who was curious, who wants to find out new things, who wants to work on, grand projects, I was drawn into the idea of being a management consultant. Pretty much 1 month after that, it was around October time. It was also the time when there was a lot of events for like recruitment, university career fair, or different management consulting companies which usually come to the school to give presentations, or like, you can talk to them and understand how their life looks like. And that was something that I wanted to explore more. And I started looking into loads of events that were like management consulting, or like startup, or like, innovation projects, all of that. There was a time in one of the events I really wanted to attend. But the thing is, where the company is, GSK, it's actually 30 to 40 minutes away from London by train. And one of the events I wanted to attend happened to be Tuesday, or like one of the working days during afternoon time. So I needed to, essentially take a day off or half a day off to attend the event. And here is where I made a major mistake, and it nearly costed me to get fired, pretty much the first month of working in the job, as I was trying to make a request about taking half a day off. I told my manager that I wanted to join this event. I wanted to attend this event, which is about career fair, being a management consultant. The reason behind me telling my manager was me naively thinking that I need to be transparent, I need to be super honest, I need to let my manager know why exactly I needed the day off, or the half a day off. But what happened was, I don't think my manager actually took that as a positive signal. Bear in mind, my manager is someone who is like 50 years old. And the manager of my manager, he is based in the US, also 50 years old. This is maybe something, it could be like the culture of the company, or the dynamic of the group, or it could be like there might be some generational gap between me and my manager and my manager's manager. What happened was, after I told my manager that I needed to take half a day off to attend this event in London to learn about management consulting, she told her manager about my request, and they did not take that lightly at all. They took that in the heart. First, I did get approved to go to the event, but 2 days later, the big boss, my manager's manager, asked to have a meeting with me together with my manager in the same room. I wasn't sure before the meeting. I wasn't sure what it's gonna be. I had no expectation about this meeting before going into the meeting. I thought they just probably want to catch up with me to see how I was going. But when I went into the meeting room, my manager seriously asked me, do you actually want this job? And I was like, yeah. I didn't know why she asked me. But then she was like, if you are going to other events and you're thinking about being a management consultant, why do you even apply to this role? And that was the moment I realized I was being too honest with them. I made the assumption that they are as curious as I was about their career. I made the assumption that they will be encouraging me to explore my career rather than protecting the business. And that was the moment I realized in your career, you cannot be 100% honest. It's actually quite strange. It's a strange concept. We are taught to be 100% honest at any time in our life because, we were taught that honesty is going to give you reward. It's the fundamental value that you should have as a person. But in actual corporate world, you cannot be 100%. And that was something that really made me feel like, holy shit, did I just ruin like my whole career? Because if they actually fire me from my internship, I cannot go back to university because the university has already decided I'm taking the placement year. So my last year of study will be delayed to after I finished the placement. I was like literally panicking about the worst scenario that could happen to me, which is like, okay, having the whole year, like the rest of the 10 months gone, doing nothing, like taking a gap year. And that was the moment I was like, holy shit, I did not expect this to happen to me. How I actually reacted in that scenario, I can't remember exactly, but I was telling them, this is just something I was pretty curious. I did not want to tell them how boring the work was because I knew already from the reaction, they are not going to take this lightly either. So I decided to tell them, okay, this is because I was young. I want to explore a little bit more than just working in pharmaceutical because, this and that. I was trying to find a compromise ground in between without actually losing my internship. After they essentially gave me a warning of if I keep doing this, then they are going to kick me out of the company and then, end my placement, send me back to university. That was pretty bad. I felt the moment they told me that, they might kick me out, I literally felt devastated, like I mentioned before. But at the same time, I felt a bit of anger in me. I wasn't angry about they kicking me out. I was angry about myself being so naive. I was angry about the whole corporate structure, the bureaucracy, and how people are being like selfish, like how they're thinking about their job, how they are so single-mindedly as people. And that was the point. I was like, okay, I do not think this company is going to be for me. That was the moment that I realized I am more than this. And that was the moment I realized I need to go into a place where I would fit better into the culture. People will understand my struggles. They will treat me more as an individual, and then they will encourage my growth and development rather than just being a machine to do my day-to-day job. As a small screw to fit into this bigger grand vision. I want to be the person who do a lot of the work and then actually building the bigger version rather than doing the mundane, routine, repetitive work. So that was a moment I nearly got fired, but it was also the same moment that I discovered a core value within myself. I want to share this experience with you because, it was quite dramatic, and I hope none of you guys would have to go through this, because one thing to remember as well is in corporate world, you have to take your calculation right. Everything you say, you need to think about the potential consequences. And for me at that time, as I was, it was my first internship, I did not think that people would actually take a lot of my actions into heart so much. And I hope this will not happen to you. And this is a harsh lesson that I learned through a near failure. There's a couple of big takeaways that I have essentially learned from this lesson. The first is, when it comes to corporate world, you need to be careful with what you say, your action. Second, always think about the potential consequences of your actions. You are there alone. You don't have friends or family. You can make some friends. The relationship between you and your manager, you need to be careful with that. You can't be 100% honest with your manager. There's also another concept of upper management, which means that having your manager to see more of your work and your achievement and manage the relationship between you and your manager well, which I might do another video to cover what exactly is upper management and how you can do that in a way that your manager understands you, your manager appreciates your work, and then you can potentially ask for a raise and promotion. And these are very different things to talk about, but this is my first experience of essentially running into a wall of upper management and how not to do it, essentially. And then the third thing as well to take away is, again, this shows that your first job might not be what you think it's going to be, and it might be completely different because bigger companies that are really good at branding, what you see outside versus what you are working within a company could be completely different. I have heard a lot of stories about being a management consultant where, working for the top 3 management consulting, the MBB, how it looks so glamorous outside, but when you actually join the company, I've heard people actually having mental issues so that they have to go to hospital to get subscribed for medicine to treat their mental conditions. And then it's okay that if you do run into this kind of situation, always think about your backup plan, explore other options. Don't feel like you're trapped in forever. Your career is going to change over and over. This first job is not going to define who you are going to be for your rest of your life. And the final lesson to walk away with, be truthful for yourself. In my case, it was not a culture fit between me and the company, and I decided not to ignore that even though I had to finish my internship for the rest of the 10 months. It was the worst 10 months of my life. I really struggled during my internship, but in the end I did it because it looked good on paper. It was a big company and it was research kind of position, and it did open the door for my full-time job and other job offers that I received. So looking at that value, I decided to make the best out of my traumatized experience and my internship. But you need to remember that you are who you are, and you are a different person, maybe even from the rest of the people you are hanging out with, and that's okay. And you need to keep searching for a place that is the best for you. I hope you guys find some joy or lesson and have taken some insight out of my experience. I hope you don't have to go through this. I hope everybody gets their full-time job, internship, the way they want, and genuinely find the fulfillment and happiness in your job. So if you're new here and you are thinking of how do you find full-time job, internship, actually I have another video which talks about how I managed to find my full-time job and how I managed to get the company to create a completely new role for me just to join the company. And I'm going to share everything that I have done in that video. So make sure you check out this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.